Hi, my name is Folakunle Oshun. I'm an artist and a curator, and this is how I make my daily 2K. Given your role in different facets of the art industry, what is a typical day like for you? I would say that depends on what project I'm working on at the time. Sometimes it's waking up and going to the studio. Sometimes it's having team meetings. Sometimes it's dealing with an institution, a museum, a gallery. Sometimes it's studio visits. And I work as an artist and a curator, so it's never one thing. It's usually convoluted, and then I just find a way of juggling the different things that I do. You are a talent with many hats: visual artist, sculptor, curator, doctor. Which is the most profitable? The most profitable in terms of money, I would say it's sculptor, because nobody can put a price tag on your work. There's no price control. It's whatever you say it is. I don't get as much time as I would love to make art and to make sculpture, and I don't particularly make art to make money. But I would say that through the years, through my practice, the most profitable thing consistently has been making little casts, little sculptures, which might not necessarily be termed as art because they're not necessarily saying anything, but it's a gold mine to learn how to, make molds and cast little things. It's a sort of a secret in the industry, whether it's 3D printing or casting trophies and awards. I mean, back in the day, that was like, it was like minting money, and it's a very specific skill set. But ultimately, sculpture on a large scale in the commercial art world is also a huge money spinner. As the director of the Lagos Biennial, how do you juggle the creative and logistics expectations of such a huge exhibition? Lagos Biennial, it's a monster of an institution. It's an incredible responsibility to run an institution on that scale. And yeah, there are creative demands, and there's also like logistical, administrative expectations. I'm not that person. I'm not that administrator. I'm not cut from that cloth, and it's been basically learning on the job, learning how to be a leader, to be responsible for other people, to plan, to care for other people. You're talking about bringing 80 plus artists to a city as insane as Lagos, and from visas to hotels to flights to production, everything stops on my desk, and it's a role that I've evolved sort of into. It's totally not who I am. I'm naturally just a hermit in my studio doing my thing, but over the last 10 years, I've had to evolve into this person, which is great because I never knew I had it in me, but it was probably just hiding somewhere deep down. Yeah. How do you position yourself to make the most money? In my own practice, I can't speak for every other curator, but I think that would be the thing that stands me out. It's the fact that I'm able to maintain my practice as a sculptor and curate at the same time, and run an institution as big as the Biennial at the same time, and not lose sight of any of those things. So it's an intense life. It's an intense practice, juggling all these things. But that's how I position myself. That's like my chakra. It's how I get it going. Because there is a creative, intuitive side to running a cultural institution. Otherwise, it just becomes an event. It becomes like just perfunctory, and nobody wants that. So I'm constantly sharpening my mind by maintaining a studio and creating, and then also finding time to collaborate with artists and get interested in what they're doing, work with art institutions. It's a full circle. It's always shifting, but then I find ways to adapt. Lagos, London, Paris, or elsewhere. Yeah, there's no place like home. It's always going to be Lagos. And not just because it's home, but there is huge value for the stories and the work that is coming out of this part of the world. And so I would rather be in Lagos because that's what I bring to the table. That's what is valued both at home. I'm able to do things that otherwise might not be done here. I'm able to contribute. I'm able to add my voice. I'm able to add my own quota, and I'm able to show up on the international scene with something that is original. Okay, artist, curator, or elsewhere in the value chain. For me, I say artists and curators, one word. I think I've come to a place where I really can't make a distinction. I mean, deep down in my heart, I'm an artist. So that was how it all started. And curating for me is an art form. It's more of an intervention in an art space that, long ago I figured wasn't serving me and wasn't serving a lot of artists. And so I decided to get in the belly of the beast and understand how that part of the the value chain worked, and learn the ropes. And so now I can sit on the fence or go in or go out, and it's really about giving value and making an impact. So whatever the demand is, I think I have developed a huge skill set to adapt. You've gone from having a gallery in Yaba to curating international group exhibitions. Look at this, and Lagos Peckham repeat pilgrimage to the lakes. What are key things you've learned along the way? I've learned to stay true to myself, to always bring my authenticity. I've learned that I'm not an island, because as an artist, there's that temptation to just do things your way and always have your way and always have your say. But working with big institutions, working with artists who are equally as talented, sometimes more talented, it's a process of give and take, back and forth. And if you do pay attention and take the time to listen to other people, you find out that there's a whole lot they also have to bring to the table, and you just have to play your part, and also to trust other people to play their part. And that's the big thing with curating, because as a curator, you get the privilege of selecting. And so when I'm making those selections, I'm not always looking for talent. Sometimes it's just a good, wholesome soul that I know I can work with, and we can develop something great just because this person is ready to learn and to give. And so, yeah, time and all, I've also learned, time and consistency, and, just to keep going, to keep pushing. It might not work the first time. There will be disappointments. But curating is a long game. It's a marathon, and it doesn't happen in the first year or the second year or the fifth year. But there are lessons that are always learned, and something that happened 7 years ago could be of value today. What impact has being an artist yourself had on your approach to art curation? So making art helped me develop that intuitive nerve to understand materials, how they're formed, what they're coming from, how they're sourced, what elements constitute each material. And so I can look at a piece of art, I can tell what an artist's intention is, and I can also sort of tell the expectation or the interpretation of a viewer, because art is a bit like psychology. And so once you have that psychological edge to know what visual illusion you're creating with an art form, you can also see through the works of other artists. And so I think when I'm working with other curators who don't really have that creative nerve, never really made art, they see colors as colors, they see forms as forms, but I see a bit deeper than that. I can tell why an artist made a piece. I can tell from where the intention came. Was this person like super hungry? Did they have a lot of materials? Were they making it to sell? Were they making it to push at something, to reflect something? I think I'm closer to the correct answer most of the time, because I also make it's a bit like a cult. You just kind of look at something and tell, and then artists most of the time trust me more because they know that I feel their pain. I can tell what they're going through, and what running a studio practice is. How do I break into the art market locally and internationally? The art market is one big beast. This question makes me feel really old, because in my day it was just make amazing art, know the right people. Art school will help with that navigation, with making the right connects, and just make pretty amazing art. Nowadays it's a lot of PR, a lot of Instagram, a lot of being out there, which is also in line with the principle of visibility. Like, people need to see what you do. But the most important thing is creating the foundation for longevity, and that is understanding the elements, the principles of art, like really getting the basics on lockdown before you present yourself to the world. Otherwise, it looks uncooked, unfinished, and then it's a bit like a soiree. It's like a chicken dance, the way the art world moves. It's like it looks uncoordinated, but there's a method to the madness, and no one really has to acknowledge or respect that system. There are alternative systems out there. You can create your own system. Back in the day, I made a gallery in Yaba, did my thing, and then when I was ready to play the game, I jumped out into the deep waters and I played that game. But in all of that, it's important not to lose yourself and lose your authenticity, because everybody with a phone is an artist. Everybody who can sing in the bathroom is a singer, but what distinguishes that talent, that genius, is discipline. It's insane hard work, but you're not going to hear this in a classroom or on the streets. But discipline, insane work ethic is what would really give that visibility to what you do. And also, people want to see stuff that they haven't seen before. So if you're repeating an aesthetic that is played out like the Jerry coil, it's just gonna be flat. We've seen it before, so why should we look at this painting of a black man holding a flower? It's like, come on, guys. But it's like what they say, painting is dead, long live painting. Yeah. What are you adding to? What are you building? Building onto what's been already existing. Yeah. How do you get curatorial assignments? Oh, you just do good work. The how do they say it? The reward for a job well done is more work. You just apply yourself, put up good, engaging shows that are conceptually strong, that are intellectual, that question, that prod, that touch on the emotion of the viewer, of the audience. It's basically coordinating. I don't know. It's an art form. Being able to pull artists into a space, and basically knocking on on so many doors, you know, the history of the space that you're showing the work in, the material, the genealogy or the history of the artist and where they're coming from, how their entire practice is leaning into whatever theme that you're looking into. And the more you're able to weave that and create like a really wholesome pudding, you know, people connect with that energy and they want to work with you. Sometimes it's just being a good human being, it's just being a good person, and oh, they like that guy's energy. But it's really hard because if you're asking the hard questions, your energy might not be necessarily great, even if you're a charming person, but you're really stinging with your questions. But sometimes these hard questions have to be asked, and art is really subversive space to ask hard, pertinent questions. So being able to find that equilibrium, that really sweet spot where you're asking the hard questions, you're critical about your approach, but then you're able to create a beautiful, wholesome space for people to learn something and engage with the art. And also like curating is making people see what they never saw about an idea or a piece of art or about a space. You're basically either creating railings for people to glide on and see how you want them to see or how you see, or opening a new portal, or you're knocking off the railings and knocking off all the rules and saying just flow, you know. How does a curator earn a living? Curators don't earn livings. You just work till you die. It's as simple as that. You know, you give. It's a thankless job. If you're lucky, if you can play the game, you hobnob, you know, totally not who I am, but, you know, people who are great at doing it, you know, do all the PR stunts, be at every event, on every panel, you know, it's, you know, to each their own. But curators, if you're really doing the work, you don't get paid, you know, it's just luck, you know, it's like, it's like chiaroscuro, you know, the highlight, you know, highest point of light is just right next to the darkest point. So you go you're really low in like the depth of your work, and then somebody sees it, the elements align, and then boom, you come out to the light. So the intention from the start cannot be to fly high and be there. And a lot of people make that mistake. They want to start at the top and boom, 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 all the PR, all the networking, all the connects. But when you take a good look at it, it's like so hollow. There's absolutely nothing there, and it can't stand on this brittle stilt. So it's like really digging your foundation and then hoping that time and chance align. But curating it's not a real, doesn't fall under hunter-gatherer or any like of natural. You're the guy who knows everything about everything. You know a bit about aviation, a bit about medicine, a bit about history, a bit about geopolitics, a bit about everything, because you're the guy presenting all of this to the public, and you have to be able to answer every question. So you really don't have the time. There's really no structure. It's not civil service work. You're really not on a desk, except you're working with an institution. Even that is not well paid. And only a few people will ever be acknowledged for the work that they do while they're alive. So you really can't put your focus on the money. I'm sorry. 9 to 5 versus freelance. Freelance any day. In your opinion, what is the high point of your professional curatorial career? I would say the 4th edition of the Lagos Biennial at Tafawa Balewa Square, which I co-curated with Catherine Ware, just because the space was so amazing. It's a space that speaks to the identity of every Nigerian, you know, across the world. It's a space where we had our independence celebrations. And I can remember there was an artist installation by Nigerian sound artist Emeka Ogbo, where he had a sound installation of the independence speech of the first Prime Minister of Nigeria, Sir Tafawa Balewa. And the speech was being aired from the speakers on one of the towers in the square. and you could hear it across Lagos Island, and it was so intense. And at some point, the DSS police guys came, and they were asking a few questions. What are we doing here? And I just felt like, yeah, finally we're making that impact. They're beginning to take note of what we're doing. But it was such an amazing environment, a space that is out there in the open. It speaks to our national identity. It's such an amazing space. Used to be a race course. There's so much history that was captured in that space. So much political, social, cultural history that was captured in that space. And I am able to go in there and bring the whole world into that space and bring artists from across the world into that space. I think for me, that was the high point. Like, if I stop curating today, I'm good. That was special. It's great to do stuff abroad and get all the accolades, but doing stuff at home on that scale, on that level, yeah, I'm thankful for that. What career ambitions have you yet to achieve? I think I would love to curate the king of all art events in the world. I mean, if whatever you do, you want to be the best, you want to do, it's the crescendo of curating in a certain sense. Not everybody aspires to it. You need a certain gene, but I'm ambitious. I would love to curate Documenta, which is like, people say Venice is the Olympics of the art world. Documenta is like the Holy Grail, and it happens once every 5 years in the city of Kassel in Germany. I would love to one day curate Documenta because it aligns with, the ethos. It's a bit what the Lagos Biennial is patterned after. It's very political, super critical. It's less about aesthetics, really about thought. And I think one day I should be ready to take on that mantle. What business opportunity do you believe exists in the ecosystem that no one has taken advantage of yet? Locally in Nigeria, in Lagos, I would say prints, art prints, signing contracts with artists to make prints of their work, because most art pieces are originals. At most you have a series of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe at most. But the print, because to get high quality prints in Nigeria is super tough, I guess. And so while the average Nigerian might not be able to buy a piece of art on the market for, like, say, 10 million naira, 5 million naira, or even 2 million naira, if you're selling really high quality prints of, say, a Yusuf Grillo or Ben and Wowu for 100,000 naira, I'm just speaking in a very Nigerian context, the average Nigerian, not the average Nigerian, the average middle class Nigerian who can eat in a fast food restaurant in Lagos should be able to afford that. And if there's that sort of certificate of authenticity and you're known as the person who gets the rights from the artist, and it's a big thing and it's well framed and all well documented, I don't know so many people who do that, but I think it's a gold mine. My name is Folakunle Oshun, artist and curator. Thank you so much for listening, and this has been how I make my daily 2K.